Okay, welcome out there, Team Whitby. Looks like it's almost 6 o'clock, 1800 to some. So we'll go through an agenda here today to talk about a bunch of issues that I'm sure on people's mind. I've got a wide range of topics that we've prepared, and so I know we're going to still have people jumping online, obviously, to go back and take a look at this. We do have it on Facebook and YouTube, so that's great. Provide a little more accessibility for a couple different platforms out there. And certainly, so for those of you who are on here, obviously you're on these two channels. If you would like to see us communicating with you on some different channels out there, throw some ideas in the comments. I'm sure we'll get some humorous ones as well as some serious ones along the way. But as always, we're looking for the best ways to communicate with folks out there, especially, if you're a young sailor out there living in the barracks. I'm interested to hear what you'd like us to communicate to you on. Obviously, we have a lot of followers on Facebook, so that's kind of our go-to. And we've got some on YouTube or on LinkedIn. And obviously, Navy Life PNW is out there as well on Facebook, Instagram. I think they might even be broaching the TikTok thing. Maybe not. Anyway, don't quote me on that. Okay, so let's get into some of the topics here. Obviously, we're going to start off with COVID, and just to give you a quick run through of what I'm planning on. COVID update talks about vaccinations. Then we're going to get into some emergency prep, winter weather. Talk about how we're going to make our decisions for winter weather events, and talk about what we know from what the schools are doing. We'll talk housing. So we've got some updates on some of the processes, talk with tenants survey, tenant satisfaction survey, the TSS. Really needs some participation in that survey to make sure we get feedback from our families out there who live in base housing. We'll talk about some of the projects that are coming up this year. Citadel Shield Solid Curtain is the first 2 weeks in February, so a little bit about that, and talk some advancement exam things coming up, and some other little odds and ends to wrap this up, depending on how the time is going. As always, if you have questions, please put them, if you're on Facebook, put them into the comments there. You can also, if you're on YouTube and you have questions, best thing for you to do is to email them to the NASWI PAO site. And if you could maybe just write down that email address real quick for me, I'll hold it up there for people. So, and if we don't get to your question for some reason, if we miss it, we'll get that to you. Here you go, Tom. There you go, Tom. There you go. Thanks. All right. So let's jump into COVID. What's the update there? All right, let's start with the big and work to the small here. So most people are following. And Mike, how's that looking for placement on the?
A little higher, sir.
A little higher?
This way.
That way?
No, the other way, I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so I'll try to keep that in mind. There you go. For a couple slides, I'm going to show people. So some updates. Research found 76% of cases suffered at least one symptom 6 months after initial diagnosis. Fatigue and sleep difficulties are most common. Research has also found 24% of COVID-19 cases did not fully recover smell or taste after 6 months. And actually, I was reading some articles that people have, like their olfactory system gets opposite anyway, all kinds of stuff that can happen. And then ICU capacity in California, Oklahoma, New Mexico has exceeded the 95% capacity. So we've seen things out there. There's this different strain that's being talked about that is now in the U.S. I think I heard it about being in New York, that increases transmissivity. So we continue to learn, we continue to develop things. But on this update I have here, global, we have over 89 million confirmed cases, almost 2 million deaths. And in the U.S., 22 million confirmed cases, 373,000 deaths as we continue to work through that. So Washington state-wise, we're currently at 390 of our rate for 100 per 100,000 of newly diagnosed, confirmed, or probable cases over 2 weeks. So that's quite a bit higher than where we want it to be, of course, but we've seen it's across the U.S. We've got trajectory data shows 26 states and territories in an upward trajectory, 28 in a downward trajectory, and national percent positivity is 13.1%, stable over last week. So remember that. I'll talk about percent positivity here in just a minute. So 13% in the U.S., 17% in Washington State. So this is one, if you Google the Navy Region Northwest COVID, you can find this travel planner that gets updated every week. Should be about right there. And so that shows each of the counties and the kind of week-to-week trend and their rate of per 100,000 over 2 weeks. And so Island County has come up to 110. And I looked at this a couple of weeks ago. That Central Washington area was over 2,500 for a couple of the counties. They're down into the 271 in Chelan, 229. So much better rates than we've seen a couple of weeks ago, but you know, we're still processing how we're doing in this post-holiday cycle. And certainly this is a lot worse than it was a couple months ago. So hopefully we can continue arresting the rates around. In Island County, we have a percent positivity is 20.1%. So quite a bit higher county-wise than what we've seen in the U.S. and Washington State. That's up from 7.8% last week. And increasing incidence rates since December 27th, holiday travel, visiting family coming in kind of stuff. So, you know, if we look on this chart here, you know, this is back in the beginning of this whole thing. Then we had a spike. We went through the summer. We had a few little ups and downs, and now we're here in this winter time. And so, you know, we continue to track where that's going county-wide. Skagit County, for all those who live over there in Skagit County, its percent positivity is 36.4%, up from 11% last week, so quite significant. Current incident rate is 315 per 100,000 over the last 2 weeks. And so we're definitely need to keep working our mitigations. The Washington State has recently done this roadmap to recovery, breaking the state into 8 regions. I'm not going to go into all the details. You can go to the Washington State websites. I'll just say that we are in the North region, so we're put together with Whatcom, Skagit, San Juan, and Island County for the 2-phase roadmap to recovery. And again, without getting into the details of it, we are looking at that so we can, of course, you know, our whole thing throughout this process of COVID is being mission ready, taking care of our people and our families, and trying to stay aligned with state and local guidance as much as it is appropriate to do so. There are some areas where we purposely diverge one way or another, but this actually aligns a little bit more with them changing their guidance to what some of the things that we're doing. Like we've been keeping the theater open because of the mitigations we can put in place. Their process now has stuff for theaters and other things on there. One of the keys, of course, moving from phase 1 to phase 2 is decreasing trend in cases, decreasing trend in hospital admission, ICU occupancy of less than 90%, test positivity rate less than 10%. So that's obviously a challenge right now as we see these high test positivity rates. So we'll continue to monitor how that goes on the Washington's roadmap to recovery. For our own, based out of the clinic here at Oak Harbor, the test positivity rate is pretty good actually, because we're doing a significant number of testing between what we do for contact tracing, what we do for people who are triaged for symptoms, and what we do for the surveillance sentinel testing and the pre-deployment sequester testing, and all these tests that we do. We've got over the whole thing, we've got a 3.6% rate. That's slightly on the incline week to week. And in our kind of latest 2-week period, we have a 7% positivity rate. So that's pretty good that we are maintaining that, because we're doing some pretty extensive testing. We're doing extensive contact tracing for those cases that are positive. And But if you just look at the people who show up with symptoms, interestingly, we're at about a 25% positivity rate. So for the people who show up with the kind of allergy-like symptoms, the cold-like symptoms, those kinds of things, they get triaged and they get tested for COVID. About 1 out of 4 are testing positive for COVID. But overall, with all the testing we're doing, we're still in a single-digit percent positivity test rate, which is good. So this leads me into the Child Development Center, what happened recently in our Clover CDC and school-age care. And so we had a few positive cases, a handful formed the single digits, and so there was a lot of communications going on. Okay, so and a kind of day-to-day development as we aggressively tackled that situation, and so ultimately we did contact tracing on all those, pretty conservative contact tracing, and we developed a list of about 160, I think, total that we working with our clinic and our public health emergency officer and the staff over there to make sure that we had put a very wide net around that contact tracing. And so of all those that we provided, let's see, we had, the report I got today was, 124 that we put in for do that contact tracing. And that's staff members, parents, and children who were deemed what is close contact. Okay, let's refresh ourselves on that. That's a 15-minute cumulative over a 24-hour period. So if you come in and you drop your children off and you have that discussion with the teacher, first of all, you should be doing that at 6 feet and everybody should be masked, okay? If for some reason you come within 6 feet, then if you linger there for 15 minutes or greater, now you become a close contact, whether you're masked or not. And that, again, is that conservative, aggressive way that we look at contact tracing. And so if you don't meet that criteria, 15 minutes cumulative over 24 hours inside that 6 feet, then you're not a close contact, okay? And like everybody, every day before they come to work, before they go into a facility, whatever, you have to self-screen and for any kind of symptoms and stuff like that, regardless of these interactions. But if you do meet that close contact criteria, then you, and you're affiliated with the clinic, then your name is provided to the clinic because the contact tracers are working out of there. So you'll be all set up to go through that clinic screening and testing lane. And so of the 124, so we put in the letter that on Monday, this past Monday, we put in the letter last week that Monday you could show up after 1300 to do testing. And we had 61 of 124 people on that list came in and got a test. Not mandatory to get a test because you can ROM quarantine for the 14 days, and as long as you don't develop symptoms, then you don't need to do anything else. But for those who were eligible for testing, 61 of 124 came in and got tested, and so we'll get those test results out here in a few days. Speaking of testing, if you go in to do a test through the clinic, just remember that if you don't get a call within 72 hours, then it's a negative, okay? And you can go into MHS Genesis yourself because you should be set up in MHS Genesis to look at your own record. You can go in there and see the results of the test. If you do get a call within 72 hours, then you will have gotten a positive test result because they're reaching out to tell you that it's positive. So get into MHS Genesis, know how to get your test results from the clinic, and that will include a COVID test. So let's see. So who do we test at the clinic? Again, we test close contacts. We do our surveillance sentinel testing, SST, which is where we take a certain number of people, just like we do with urinalysis, and we randomly say, okay, you 20 people go get a test. And so the names will be there, you get tested. And so that's for us to make sure that we're keeping a handle of asymptomatic people who are walking around positive. And then, of course, the people, like I said, who are symptomatic, they work with their PCM and they come in, they get triaged, and they get tested. So will SAC enforce mask wearing now that a positive has occurred? So yes, my desire is that we enforce that all the time, especially a lot of those kids who are in the hybrid model in Oak Harbor School District. They're used to wearing masks when they're in school and dealing with that. Frankly, I think as I go around and as I certainly with my kids, I think kids are much more accustomed to wearing masks than a lot of adults are, as I see walking around places. So certainly expectation is that mask wearing is enforced and that they are afforded mask breaks if they get to play outside. If they're sitting alone doing something, they can take a mask break. But otherwise, masks should be enforced in the school-age care. So just to wrap up the CDC and school-age care conversation, Regatta, we reopened that once we worked through the whole situation, and we were able to reopen Regatta on Monday, and we look forward to reopening Clover CDC and school-age care on the 20th of January. And throughout this week, we're doing sanitization, and interestingly, and this will be an interesting situation to look on come 20th of January, because we'll have the test results back from all those close contacts who tested. And so the masking, the washing the hands, the watching your distance, all these mitigations that we're taking, it'll be interesting to see what the positivity rate is of those close contacts and to help us inform if those mitigations are working that we're doing. So I look forward to reviewing that whole situation once we're through it all and determining if there's additional mitigations we need to make or if the ones that we have are working. Because just because you get COVID doesn't mean you're a bad person. It's pretty pervasive out there, okay? And we have let people go on leave out of the state. We've taken precautions. People go about their business around here within the state policies and the local policies and our policies, but still people can get COVID. Our goal is to make sure that when people do get COVID, that we're not transmitting it in our facilities. That's one of our primary goals. That helps us to contain the spread of COVID and make sure we keep folks mission ready. Okay, so with that, let me look at some other questions that were sent to us ahead of time that are in this topic. Let's see. Sound is really low. Maybe, is there something we can do settings-wise to try to increase the volume of the mic, or I can sit closer?
Is that YouTube or Facebook?
I think it's on Facebook. Okay.
I hear it just fine. We're haven't checked their volume.
Okay. EXO's monitoring over here. They're hearing it fine. So I'll try to speak up anyway. How about that? Okay. So this kind of, one of our Pedestal third classes from the installation submitted a question that hoping for some guidance on taking house hunting leave or house hunting TAD during the pandemic, specifically to states that are requiring a 10 or 14-day quarantine, such as Hawaii. Thanks for the question. Pretty specific. And so my general point is that leave and house hunting and PCSs are going on, but it's always a situation based on the particular case. If there's a house hunting TAD to a place that requires some kind of quarantine, then you really got to work through that with your supervisor, and so because that's a pretty specific situation, and so I encourage you to work with your supervisor on that and see if you can get to doing house hunting in Hawaii if that's where you're going to. Congratulations. Love it up here in the Northwest, but I look for any opportunity to go visit Hawaii. So anyway, really need you to work with your leadership on that. And if you're not getting an answer you feel is appropriate, certainly reach out to installation staff and we'll work with your leadership on that one. But all these things, TADs, leave, PCS, all these things are going on out there. It just takes a lot of diligent work to get through them. Concerning the Child Development Center, are we going to see more transparency and communication from the CDC to parents and employees? There's a lot of confusion on testing. and who was in contact after this last outbreak. One of the other questions that was posed was, how do I know if I was a close contact because I don't know who it was that tested positive? Please remember, these are medical conditions. We're not going to go out and post names on the front of the building or put out names in communications. Hey, this person tested positive or that person tested positive. We see that with some political leaders when, Congressman Larson tested positive recently, and he put out on Twitter, hey, I've tested positive, I'm healthy, I'm doing wrong, all that kind of stuff. That's his own decision, as an example, but we're not going to publicize that information. What people need to understand is that we know who tests positive, we go through extensive contact tracing, and you are informed if you were somebody who's determined to be a close contact. If you were not determined to be a close contact, then you're not a close contact, okay? And so now the communication, I will tell you, I wish we had a much better communication system in the Child Development Center. That's one. If this was my business and I could completely control my business and my funding and where I expend funds, I would put a platform in place to more easily allow our CDC, our CYP staff to communicate with parents. I see it in, I see great platforms that I've used for my kids' education in different schools and stuff, but our CYP program from CNIC doesn't have a good system. They haven't invested in it. And so it is up to the staff to sit there and call or manually input addresses for the people, the parents that they need to talk to. So it's cumbersome, it takes time, but in the end, we strive for clear communication and certainly transparency. That's why I sent letters to the people who were close contacts, and I sent letters to all the CYP families out there. So if you don't think that was clear enough, please provide some ways that we can be more transparent. I am absolutely all about doing that. So so I appreciate your question. If you could follow that up with some specific ways that you feel like we could be transparent, please, you can send those through the CYP staff, or you can send them to the NAS Woodby Island email. Okay, I'll read that out too. And if you're watching this afterwards, you can just pause it and take a look at that. We can also put that in the comments, maybe. Okay. But I will take a moment to say, first of all, there was a lot of staff that were deemed close contacts. So that is a lot of stress and strain on our great staff who's already working through a stressful situation this whole time, trying to care for kids, deal with strains on their own family, and work through evolving policies and stuff like that. So I greatly appreciate the work that our staff has been doing there. Very concerned about the health and welfare of our own staff, as well as the parents and certainly the kids that are there at our facility. So I look forward to, again, reviewing. Hopefully we don't have any positives through all our close contacts, but we'll evaluate that, and I'm optimistic for the best there. And then there's one particular spouse who sent in a lot of information on her experience as in the situation where her son was determined to be a close contact, and so she chose not to have her son tested, but she wanted to get tested. Again, if you're not a close contact, you're not symptomatic, and you're not part of the surveillance sentinel testing, then the clinic's not going to test you. And based on your email that you provided, I got in touch with the clinic leadership there. They went back through all those 61 of the 124 who were tested, and they verified that they did not end up testing anybody who was not already on the list from the contact tracing. And so we'll continue to abide by those policies of who we test. And let's see. Okay, so that's that. All right. So let's get into vaccinations, okay? Firstly, we have the Moderna vaccine here. There's some some flea concentration centers. I know San Diego, I've got a lot of friends of mine who I've seen on social media posted their card showing that they were vaccinated, and it says Pfizer right on there. Because remember, if you get the shot from one, then the follow-up shot has to be the same one, by the way. So the places where they can manage that super cold storage of the Pfizer vaccine are the places generally where the Pfizer vaccine is going. Places like here at Oak Harbor, where we don't have the facilities to maintain that super low temperature storage, where we get the Moderna vaccine. We've gotten quite a few vaccines, and so we're working through that now. There is a DoD population schema that has been adjusted a few times. This is the latest and greatest one. So you can see the 1 Alpha, the 1 Bravo. I don't expect you to read all that right now, but what I'll describe to you is, so phase 1 is your healthcare providers, healthcare support personnel, emergency services, and public safety personnel. You might have seen a couple weeks ago, we posted some pictures of our first people getting the vaccines. They were Fed Fire, clinic staff, the physicians and medical personnel, and our search and rescue personnel who are qualified as first responders as well. So we've worked through that first phase, and we're getting into phase 1B, critical national capabilities, personnel preparing to deploy to locations outside the U.S., et cetera. And so Team Whidbey is great. We've got really great communication between NASWI and the wings and the commands and the clinic, and we've got really good periodic communications on that. So we're making sure that as we get vaccines that we're pushing the right people for this prioritization to get vaccinated. So we're already into some of our squadrons, and so we'll continue to work through those critical national capabilities, the squadrons that are coming up for deployment, while we also work through some of those deployment enablers like air traffic control and some others across the installation. So good progress there, and basically we're working through all the vaccines on hand. We should have worked through all those through this week, and we expect to get even more this week. So we'll continue to work through shot X's in a very methodic way. It's not a doors wide open, show up, and therefore you have a whole bunch of people hanging out there. Also, we're not going to waste any. So we also have a list of people who, if we have some shots available, we can call some people in rapidly to make sure that we get those shots. The clinic's desire is to make sure that we're not keeping vaccines in the fridge, we're putting them in arms, okay? I did ask if they're putting them in butts too, but no, it's just arms. And so you can make a special request. But anyway, we are getting them out of the fridge and into the arms. All right, my PAO staff is shaking their head. All right, so we're making good progress, okay? On the big scheme, in one of the meetings today, I did hear quoted that the Defense Health Agency, DHA, who is managing this whole thing across the DoD, the DHA general place, I think it is, his desire is to have 80% of personnel vaccinated by the Independence Day weekend. So I think that's aggressive. I like it, and I'm very optimistic that we'll work towards that locally. Now, it's not mandatory, okay? It's not going to be mandatory like the flu shot is mandatory for service members. It's not going to be mandatory until it is a FDA certified, because it's on emergency use authorization. Not until it's gone through its regular FDA process is it going to become mandatory for service members, more than likely. So it is optional. And so across DoD, across the Navy, across the installation, we are seeing some people opting in, some people opting out. And so as we work through that, we work through the, for example, the 1A, we're moving into the 1B territory. If you are a 1A person and you have taken the time to educate yourself and you had previously declined, but now you want to get the shot, no problem. Just let it be known with your PCM, with your supervisor, and we'll get you back into the mix to get the shot. So very easy. I encourage people out there, okay, don't just go into social media and educate yourself. Go to some ways that you can truly inform yourself. Supervisors need to have conversations with folks out there. But with all that said, I can't tell you when vaccines equal HB-Con alpha, or vaccines equal take off your mask, or vaccines equal or anything equals no pre-deployment sequester for carrier-based squadrons. I can't tell you that right now. We don't have guidance on that. All we're doing is we're going to continue maintaining the mitigations we have, the 3 W's: wash your hands, wear your mask, and watch your distance. And we're going to continue doing screening at facilities. We're going to continue doing pre-deployment sequesters for carrier-based squadrons. We're going to continue ROMing for the reasons that we ROM, all these kinds of things that are going to go on. And as we work through the next few months, we're looking forward to further guidance on our additional road to recovery. Out in town, there are obviously vaccines through Would-Be Health and other institutions out in town. So if for some reason you end up hitting a criteria where you can get your vaccine in town, but you haven't been offered it at the clinic yet, and you're affiliated with the clinic, please, within 24 hours, make sure you get that information to your corpsman, or your flight surgeon, or your PCM, so that we can document that in the system. And just remember, if you get for some reason you get the Pfizer vaccine out in town, remember you got to follow up with the Pfizer vaccine at that was it 3-week point or 28-day point, or whichever one it is. Okay. Anything else on vaccines, Excel? Good.
This process is going to take up to 6 months to get everybody through here on base. So far, we have a few hundred vaccines and almost 10,000 people, plus another 15,000 in the community who are interested in getting vaccine.
Yeah, if you look at 10,700 people who work on base, we've got all the family members, retirees, dependents. Certainly, we're going to try to, as far as our affiliated people, we want to make sure we're getting vaccines to at some point to the people with underlying health conditions or are at risk due to age and all that kind of stuff. And so if we knew exactly hey, on this date, you're going to get 1,000, on this date, you're going to get 500, on this date, you're going to get that, then we could map it out perfectly and tell you you're going to get your vaccine on March 27th. But we're not there, and we're going to continue working through the prioritization and the vaccines as we get them. As we burn them, they come in. So we're going to keep getting them out of the fridge and putting them in arms. Okay, if you have questions that I haven't answered, please put them into the comments. Let's see, let's talk schools. So that's going to lead into winter weather, but obviously go to your school district for information. I'll just provide a quick recap. I know the Oak Harbor School District had a school board meeting last night, and tying in the COVID thing, just to highlight that the school district tested 887 district staff for COVID during the week of 4 to 9 January when everybody was in distance learning, and they had 0 positive in that group. So, I mean, that's really great news. And of course, all those folks knew they were going to be tested, and they were tested, and there were no positives. So really great. Therefore, K through 6 returned to hybrid learning on the 11th of January. There have been 0 positive student cases in the last 4 months. So really great stuff there. So the school board did approve the updated 7 through 12 reopening decision matrix. So again, if it applies to you, you can get the information from the school district. I'm sure you got an email. There's some more details in all that. One of the things I did want to bring up as we go into winter weather was the school board for the Oak Harbor School District approved their snow day plan. The first 2 snow days will be unplugged days. After 2 snow days, the schools will revert to full distance learning procedures. Okay, so need to keep that in mind because that's going to affect folks as we go into snow days. Also, by the way, a couple other things. Superintendent Dr. Lance Gibbon announced Congress passed the additional COVID-19 relief assistance, which includes the district will use to address facility needs, provide extra support in the spring, summer, and fall to address what is starting to be called learning loss because of this virtual environment that a lot of kids have been in for so long. I mean, when we look at these grade 7 through 12 kids who are going to go back into a hybrid learning environment, hopefully in February, it will have been almost a full year since they've been in school. It's just amazing. What's also amazing is that the Oak Harbor School District, because of the situation here and because of their hard work, they've been able to get kids into in-person learning, which has not been the case in a lot of areas around us. So I really greatly appreciate the effort of Dr. Gibbon and all the staff and teachers and support staff to get our kids that opportunity to be in-person learning and work our way through that. So really tremendous effort and very, very beneficial from Team Whidbey. Okay, and then also the NDAA passed the National Defense Authorization Act, which also benefits in that the OEA, which is now being renamed the OLDCC, is going to provide funds for the Home Connect hand-in-hand school, which sits on federal property. So last year, Crescent Harbor Elementary hit that point where there's recapitalization money available for that. And then now the other school, the Home Connect hand-in-hand, also gets recapitalization money. We've been working very closely with school on their strategic recapitalization plan to make sure we work through all the environmental and the siting and all that kind of stuff. So really great effort from now until 2030 on that. Obviously, you can go to the school district website on that. But that leads me to another quick little tangent. There is a levy that the school district is floating in February. That is the operating levy. That's for the 4-year funding to supplement their funds for a lot of the things that they provide, like additional school nurses and activities and all that kind of stuff. Again, you can go to the school district for that. The reason I bring it up is just I'm not advocating yes or no. I'm just telling you that if you want to participate in that, you can register to vote and participate in that levy. So if you have any questions about registering to vote, how it affects your your state citizenship, where you're from, all that kind of stuff, you can go to votewa.gov for registration help. You can contact the Region Legal Services Office if you have any particular questions that are a little gray to you on registering to vote and what that does for your record and state citizenship and all that stuff. And then next year, there'll be another levy that applies to that recapitalization money. Complicated situation. We'll provide information, and the school district will provide information about that later. Okay, so that's Oak Harbor School District. Real quick, Coopville School Board approved the district plans to start phase and approach to hybrid learning tentatively beginning the 1st of February. So again, a lot of great details in that with times and all that kind of stuff. So if you belong to the Coopville School District, you can go to their site. So great work by the staff there trying to get to in-person learning. And then Anacortes School District. So pre-K to 5th grade students returned to in-person learning yesterday. Elementary students remain in their same split AB schedule. And students in grades 6 to 12 will return to in-person learning on February 8th, which is the start of the 2nd semester. So great work with Anacortes School District and their leadership and staff working through that. And then last thing I'll say on the Anacortes School District, I got this input that the impact aid survey cards, okay? So, evidently there's some parents out there within Anacortes School District who are pushing back, refusing to return the impact aid survey cards because the schools haven't been in person. Just keep this in mind, okay? That impact aid survey card doesn't affect, the funding for the school today. It affects the funding for the school a couple years from now, after that whole process gets worked through. So I encourage you to fill out those impact aid survey cards so that the school districts can get the funding from OLDCC, formerly OEA, to supplement the schools who are educating our kids, but they're not getting the tax benefits like building occupancy taxes and other things that would that would be provided. So certainly, if you have questions about that, if you want more information so that you can make your own informed decision, I encourage you to reach out to our school liaison officer, Patrina Murphy, and there's a slow quarterly newsletter and all kinds of great stuff that she's been doing out there since she's been on the installation. Okay, that whole tangent gets me back to snow days. Okay, some of you heard me say that this is my first tour here, and everybody told me it doesn't snow at Whidbey Island. We've had 2 pretty awesome winters for snow. And so what I want to do is I want to go through our winter weather notification process, because I have certainly learned over the last two years as we've made a few mistakes along the way, as well as getting a lot of things right. And so one of the things I want to update you on, last year we were kind of handcuffed with our big snowstorm because some of our snow removal equipment went down hard. So we've been working with our the team that maintains that equipment. They've refurbished a lot of stuff. They've gotten some additional equipment. So we stand in a really good position coming into it equipment-wise to be able to respond. Here's how the winter weather decision makers is going to happen. Okay, if we know a blizzard is coming in, like at this time on any particular night, if we know a blizzard is coming in the next day and it's almost 100% sure, we're going to make the decision, in the evening so people can prepare. Once I make that decision, I'm not going to walk back on it. Okay, and so because basically if I put the base into a mission essential personnel status, then okay. Apparently I have peanut butter in my mouth. I kind of wish. I enjoy a good peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but I'll try to speak a little more clearly. Thanks.
That's like, and you're wearing a flight suit. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. So I'll make the decision if we're certain about what the weather's going to be. If it's going to be, hey, there's a good chance of snow, and then we will be inclined to make a 2-hour delayed opening decision in the evening to then give us a little decision space in the morning time frame. So here's how the morning's going to go. So no later than 04:30, we'll absolutely make that decision to either delay 2 hours or to curtail base operations, mission essential only, or no operations conducted, okay? 04:30, because we do have people who commute from long distances, so I want to make sure we get that decision out there at 4:30 so that we can reach those folks who have to commute from those distances. At 06:30, we'll make a decision. So let's say, for example, we decided 2-hour delay, okay? Because remember, if at 4:30 or if at the evening before I say base operations are curtailed, I'm not going to go back on that. It just causes a little too much confusion because I'll give you a couple caveats here in a second. So if we say at 4:30 that 2-hour delay, then at 06:30, depending on how the weather's progressing, we'll either make a decision at that point to curtail base operations if it's getting worse than forecast, or if it's proceeding as forecast or better than forecast, then we will do that. We'll execute the 2-hour delay. But I won't go from a 2-hour delay to, hey, everybody show up at work. Okay? So that's from the base perspective. So try to make an evening decision. We'll definitely put out an announcement in the evening, whether we're planning on going with normal operations, 2-hour delay, or mission essential personnel only. And then we'll do a 4:30 decision and a 6:30 decision. Now, that's for the base, okay? If we're mission essential personnel and you come on base, all you're going to get is the galley will be open to only people who can use it. Remember the COVID constraints on the galley, and that's about it. All the theater, fitness center, all that stuff will be closed. Now, if you're in a squadron, for example, that's going to deploy, or like we had last February when DAQ 142 was going on deployment in the middle of that, they're obviously mission essential during that period to to get on the airlifts, get the jets out of here, all that kind of stuff. So that whole squadron was mission essential. And so that commanding officer makes a decision. We're all mission essential because we got a mission to do. Now take another squadron right next door in the same hangar that is maybe in the maintenance phase and they don't have essential work to do. Then their leadership would put out information through their channels saying the base is mission essential only, don't come to work, or only watchstanders or whatever. If you're sitting there in the barracks, okay, I'd encourage you to check with your supervisor, because if we need teams to go out there and sweep jets of snow, shovel snow from around jets, we've got a workforce there in the barracks who would like nothing more than to go out and get some physical exercise on the flight line and take care of those things. And so, so we can pull from local folks to do that. But obviously, your team, your command, your squadron, your work center, you know, they're the ones who are going to decide if you're mission essential or not. And what's mission essential one day might not be mission essential the other day. So just to recap, we'll make an evening decision so we can get information out there. We'll follow up with the 0430 decision, and we'll follow up with the 0630 decision. How are you getting the information? Okay, sign up on ad hoc. Go onto your on when you're on a computer that you use, and you hit that little ad hoc thing. Put in your personal phone so that you're sitting there in bed at 4:30, going, "Do I have to go to work or not?" And you'll get that notification on your phone. Also on Facebook, the NASWI webpage, and we'll share it with the local media outlets. Okay? So speaking of winter weather, there's some great resources out there. I'll just I'll tell you, Island County, WA, Island County, Washington app, okay, as we look at more emergency preparedness. Remember, with COVID going on, a winter storm, God help us if we get that 9.0 earthquake and the Cascadia subduction zone rips at the same time. So we'd be in a world of hurt. So don't be a liability. Have 14 days of supply of toilet paper. Obviously became the issue that nobody expected. But you got medications for 14 days, all that kind of stuff. So that if 2021 unleashes a terror like that on us, that you can take care of yourself and until you can get your situation resolved. If you're a first responder, if we're somebody who we really rely on, really need you to make sure that your family is taken care of so you can come in and do that very important work you need to do. Okay, so the Island County WA app, talking winter weather, make sure you got stuff in your car if you're going on the road to do stuff, to stay warm and all that kind of stuff. Okay, all right, that's it for winter weather. Okay, peanut butter. Housing. Housing stuff. There's a process we call the COM process, the change of occupancy maintenance. Okay, Hunt has the leasing team, and then they have the maintenance team, and the maintenance team is basically broken into the COM teams who turn over houses when they're vacated, and the maintenance team that responds when you put in your maintenance request, your routine maintenance request through the Hunt portal. Okay, there you go, maintenance. I don't have it. There you go. So routine maintenance requests can be put through the Hunt portal app. Make urgent or emergency requests through the phone. Okay, and the app can get you that phone number as well if you don't have it on hand. So that's the three elements basically of Hunt. The COM process, we have been working really hard with Hunt to get that COM process better. Some of you out there in the community have noticed that a lot of houses have been sitting vacant. We've had sailors on wait lists, and I've talked about it before, that my goal is to make sure that sailors, when they show up and they're now immediate need for the house, they put their name on the list a long time ago, okay? And then they show up and they're ready for a house, that they have it within 10 days, because that's the TLE period. And so that the Hunt is getting better. They've made some slight improvements over the last month or so. Time to move in from date housing is needed when you're actually on the ground is about 45 days on average though. It was 60. Even when it was 60, there was about 10 or 15% of the folks who were getting in inside of 10 days, but obviously a lot of people were not. And so we've been working with the hunt leadership on fixing that problem, and they still have a ways to go on that. Wait list is really short right now. It's about 30 personnel. It was 200 in November. We currently have 85 people referred over for houses, signed pre-leases awaiting to move into houses. Only have 16 homes available and 0 for, So we continue to work through the comm process, trying to make sure that sailors and families, when they show up, can move in as soon as possible. Tenant satisfaction survey, okay? We're really looking for your feedback through that tenant satisfaction survey. If you're a resident, this is one of my gripes with the whole system, is that the leaseholder, like in my family, I'm the one who gets the email for these things. I wish it would come to both me and my spouse, and my kids don't have devices yet, thank God, but sometime they will. But if you've got teenagers in the house or whatever, they've got devices, I wish that they could get those notifications as too. Because if your water's gonna be shut off because of some maintenance, then everybody should get a notification. Anyway, I'm ranting. So find that tenant satisfaction survey email and please fill it out. If you've had a good experience, and I've run into quite a few people who have had good experiences, please fill that out, because even if you have good experiences, you still have some input that can help us improve things. And if you've had bad experiences, please get in there, fill it out, put some comments in, give them ratings, and so we can get that feedback and continue to work with Hunt on improving the processes. If you know somebody who had a bad experience, okay, don't fill out the tenant satisfaction survey on their behalf. Get them to fill it out so they can relay their own experience. Now, I just want to highlight what we call the two-step process, because we've run into this a few times recently, where we find out there's a family suffering and basically in silence, and once we find it out, we put our resources to it and we get this resolved, okay? Now, and I picked up this flyer, it's right here at the Victory Terrace Community Center. It's also online, all that kind of stuff. Basically what this says is that, so you put in your maintenance requests, you work with the maintenance team, you're not satisfied, okay? You contact the local PPV property manager, okay? So you can, again, get that contact information through the Hunt Portal app or online. And right here, it's 360-679-4241. Okay, if you're not getting satisfied with the community manager's response, then go to the Housing Service Center. Okay, their office is over in the for us, it's in Northwest Fleet and Family Support Center, but you can go to the Navy Life PNW app on your phone or to the Navy Life PNW website, and you can find Housing Service Center information. Again, Hunt, leasing, property manager, leasing office, maintenance team, comm maintenance, and on-call maintenance, Housing Service Center. Okay, they work directly for me through the N9 organization. They're there to advocate for you. Okay, we also last year we were able to plus up the team with housing inspectors that go in after the comm process is complete, and they're also the ones who, if you have a problem that raises to their attention, then they work with Hunt, dig through the history, and work to resolve, advocating on your behalf. Who's the other person who you need to reach out to advocate on your behalf? Your command. Your command has to be involved. If the community manager is not resolving it, you got to involve your command. Talk to your division officer, make sure that's getting to your CMC. Your CMC can work with the base CMC, Master Chief Leopard, and we can get this stuff resolved equitably. So please use that process. And I know that a few folks who we've worked with didn't know about the process. Now you know about it. Please spread the word. And so certainly if you hear about somebody suffering, please do so. I just got one today, and it was sent through another resource that I get some of my stuff, which was the same one who told me I wasn't speaking loudly enough. God bless her. Thank you for your support out there as we work through these. But As much as, for example, as much as my wife is very happy to help out in these circumstances, okay, and she's a great resource, okay, she's not part of the two-step process, so please work with our housing service center who advocates for you, work with your command who advocates for you. Let's get these problems resolved. So that gets me into some project review here for housing projects. In 2020, what the partnership in Hunt has completed: roadway repairs in Mailer Point, fencing replacement, Rock Hill and parts of Crescent Harbor, sash failure replacement, Forbes Point, 129 windows, Mailer Point, 168 windows, Victory Terrace, 100 windows, exterior painting, Victory Terrace and Mailer Point, vinyl siding repairs, 15 homes in Rock Hill, 8 homes in Crescent Harbor, community center maintenance shop renovation in the design phase, converting flooring to the linoleum vinyl tile, the more durable product during the COM process, that change of occupancy maintenance, so putting in more LVT, tree trimming of 69 trees, roof and gutter cleaning of the entire property, which is important for maintenance of our houses, but also for mosquito mitigation. And they did mosquito treatment and mitigation, 8 total treatments, as we worked with them to try to mitigate the mosquito problem. And we're going to continue doing that this year with our mosquito management working group. Chimney inspections, curb and crosswalk painting. So those were the big things that were done in 2020. One of the other ones would be apartments replacement. Okay, we're in the pre-development site survey phase. Project is due to start in 2022 and go through 2023, with demolition of the current would-be apartments in 2024. That's 76 units that are going to be constructed over here on the Seaplane Base side to replace the old units we have over there. Well-maintained, but old units over there. If you're in Crescent Harbor, in the 159 or so unrenovated units that are along Larch, I will tell you, we're tracking the problems that are going on in there. We have finished out the year doing the, we finished out the year doing 100% of preventative maintenance. Okay, I directed Hunt to get out there and make sure they got inside every house, 1,495 houses in a year, and do preventive maintenance inspections so we could catch stuff that's not being reported. And it's not that we're looking to go after residents, it's just that people are living with things they shouldn't live with. They shouldn't have to live with. So we get in there, we get eyes in there, we fix things, and make sure we're keeping up the properties. But in that process, we discovered, and through maintenance calls, we're tracking the problems in those 156 units or so in Crescent Harbor that have been unrenovated. There's a project due in 2025 to renovate those units, and we're really working hard to pull that forward to 2022. So I'm very hopeful we'll make some progress on that to do that project a few years early, largely because of, so 2021 projects that are coming up, and I think Hunt's going to put a letter out also informing people. Exterior painting, Crescent Harbor 3 and farmhouses, vinyl siding repair, Crescent Harbor 1, Navy renovated, fencing replacement, Crescent Harbor and Mailer Point, 550 units, playgrounds, census reduction and reconstruction. That basically means they're going to invest in some more of those destination playgrounds, and some of the smaller ones, you'll probably see a few of the small ones go away, so we could have more of those destination playgrounds that are really, really super cool. Roadway repair and crack sealing in the Mailer community, and some other stuff. So again, hopefully you'll get a little more information on that stuff. Quality of drinking water in the older houses on Seaplane Base. What is being done? So every year we do water quality inspections. So there's some houses that environmental at Public Works picks to go in and do water sampling to do that stuff. So what I'll do with this, if you got more information on what the water quality issue is, please send it to us. And I'll also work with Public Works to make sure we put out, between us and Hunt, we'll put out something that gives you some insight on water quality in the houses. Just to confirm for everybody, the water that we get in all the houses and across the installation comes from the Skagit River through the city of Anacortes into Oak Harbor. And so it's the water that comes through the water lines there. And it's not well water or anything like that. But if you've got specific water quality issues in your house, please let us know. Talk to the Housing Service Center, 257-3331, Whidbey_housing@navy.mil. If you got something in particular, or obviously put in your maintenance request for housing stuff. If you also want to be part of the solution and helping us work with Hunt on these things, the Community Advisory Board, okay, I highly encourage you to reach out to Hunt and volunteer to be on that. And so right now we continue to work to try to build that out, but I don't think we have too many people on it. So call the management office, 360-679-4241, or contact Hunt to put yourself on the Community Advisory Board so you can help in all these kinds of decisions as we work with them. And then if you don't have the Hunt portal app, then there's a brochure here and you can contact the housing office to get yourself on that. Okay, let's see. Oh, I'm sorry, there was a vaccine question. I got to jump back to that. If we get the vaccine, are we able to travel without having to do a 14-day ROM? And the answer right now is no. None of our mitigation postures change right now just because you got a COVID vaccine. And so, so we'll see as policies develop when those mitigations are relaxed, but nothing right now. And let's see if there was another one that applies. No. Okay. Back to school-age care. Will there be child care offered during the summer for school-age children? If so, will there be limited availability? And lastly, when can we begin registering our children? So right now, off the top of my head, it's normally 135 kids who we can put into school-age care. During COVID, we're sitting about a 90 maximum. And so I don't anticipate that changing right now with the maximum number. And then come late April is when you'll be able to register, and that's going to be through the Military Child Care in your neighborhood website to go ahead and register for that summer program. Okay. Coming up, first 2 weeks of February is Citadel Shield Solid Curtain, the anti-terror force protection exercise that we do annually. So you can see you can expect additional ad hoc notifications, some momentary disruptions and maybe gates as we go through different scenarios, active shooter things. If you are active duty, you should be doing your active shooter training. And then when we go through our active shooter drill during Solid Curtain and Citadel Shield, then everybody's expected to go through those active shooter responses and appropriately and take that as the actual training event for everybody across the base. So that's Citadel Shield Solid Curtain coming up. Again, get on ad hoc so you know what's going on. You know, if, for example, in reality, if there's an active shooter at the Navy Exchange or something like that and you're at work, don't you want to know if your family happened to be, say, hey, we're going to go to the Exchange today, don't you want to know that stuff is going on? So please get yourself on ad hoc so that you can get the information about what's going on for responses to active shooters and other situations on the base, or earthquake response and snow events and all those kinds of things. PFA coming up, 2021 is a single cycle. You should be getting plenty of information on that. E7 exams coming up, so your command should already be telling you when and where you're going to take the E7 exam. And then we got the spring cycle for advancements coming up in early March. We still haven't gotten a NAV admin saying whether E4s are going to be participating in that or not. But what I will tell you is across the Navy, we've got about 24,000 people who have not completed their professional military knowledge, the PMK-EE. Okay, if you don't complete that, you can't sit for the exam. So if you're a spouse out there and you're hoping that your service member is going to take the exam and get advanced, but they haven't finished their PMK EE, then you might want to nudge them and say, would you get that done, please? Because you can do it right on your phone, and it's easy to access. Get it done so you can make sure that you take the exam and set yourself up for advancement. 1 February, it has to be done. Yeah, before 1 February. So you got to finish it by the end of January. Just take February out of your mind. You got to finish it before the end of January. Let's see, payroll tax deferment. If you got payroll tax, then you should already know that January through December, they're taking it out of your pay. So again, the Fleet and Family Support Center has got services to help you with budgeting. Navy Marine Corps Relief has got services to help you with budgeting. Speaking of Navy Marine Corps Relief, great operation there. And we are about to enter the annual fund drive. So you'll see information on the fund drive going on for Navy Marine Corps Relief. And so Fleet and Family Support Center, they continue to provide services. We still don't have a virtual platform for counseling authorized from our N91 counselors. They can do telephonic counseling while they're in their days in office. And so we are providing counseling like that. The clinicians out of the Navy Health Clinic, they can provide virtual platform counseling, and also there's others out in the community, but that continues to be an effort that we're working on. And then on the MWR side, like I mentioned earlier, theater, I got a question about the gym. So I'll answer that one. Would it be possible to allow the base gym to return to a more normal operating procedure? The hour-long closure in the middle of the morning and mid-afternoon makes it difficult for people with irregular schedules to go during free time in the day, like our crew around their flights and planning and everything. So, and then also the off zone as well. So I appreciate the input. We'll take a look at that. And that's by one of the folks over at DAQ 129. I appreciate that input. We're going to take a look at that. I'll talk to, we always need to evolve our services as we go. So I'll work with N9 and see if there's something we can do to get to that. And then as far as the theater, I was talking to the theater staff when I took my family over to watch Croods on Sunday. So there were a few other people in the audience this time, unlike some of the other movies I'd taken them to. But so there are some people using them, so that's great. But when I talked to the theater staff, I asked about the single sailors in the barracks. They said, pretty much no, not really seeing them. So please, if there's something that you want to see in the theater that's going to get you out of the barracks, maybe take a walk, go down to the theater and catch a movie, please let us know what it is that we can offer there within reason. So, all right. And then also another plug for apps, the Dine on the Go Pacific Northwest app, Kegler's. And, they're providing some great food service. So download the Dine on the Go P&W app, and you can place your order, have it ready for pickup right there. And it's really just a lot of great staff out there trying to do everything they can to provide services to folks. But if you have something different that you feel like we can do, please get that information. Just check in any other questions coming in or snide remarks that I can address. We did get another input. Really appreciate this. So they think the commissary and NEX are the only big places on the island who are actually following the 25% rule. Very impressed and thankful. Commissary workers are knocking it out of the park, allowing in only 100 carts/shoppers, checking IDs and wiping things down frequently. Feel a lot more protected there than anywhere else. Please thank the people who made and are implementing these rules, et cetera. So I second that. Exchange and commissary staff continue to do really great things providing the services. I know folks out there are frustrated with the inventory on the shelves. Periodically, I still shop there, and I get it. Sometimes it's not as good as other times. And last weekend I went at Sunday at around 1800. That's definitely not the time to go. But but there's still a lot of great stuff there. And I still left with pretty much everything I needed. Certainly everything I could, that I really needed to get, not what I wanted sometimes, but they're really working hard to make sure that they've got stuff stocked there. And it's not them who stocks it, it's the vendors who come in and stock it. There's 2 vendors, and we live on an island, distribution, blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, the NEX and the commissary staff are working hard on that. Which leads me to another question I got. I think this is the last one I got. This is from an officer over at VP 69. I appreciate you really taking the time to put this. So, newly returned to Whidbey Island after having been away for 6 years. 4th time returning to the base over 20 years of service. Seen many changes to the facilities and base infrastructure, some good, some not so good. And so the question is, why does the commissary continue to be closed on Mondays? And, with more activity out there, more families needing stuff, then why can't the commissary be larger, newer, more selection, and open 7 days a week? Great input. I appreciate that. I'm going to talk to DECA about that, why it is. I know that there's some commissaries out there that serve the fleet that are open 7 days. Be interested to find out from the Defense Commissary Agency, DECA, what the criteria is, so I can get back to you once I know that. And then also, as we look at kind of NASWI 2035 in a lot of ways, with the things that we need to do on the airfield, with the taxiways, and doing all that maintenance and building infrastructure, what is DECA's plan for the commissary? Is there a plan to recapitalize that, build a newer, modern facility? I'll get back to you on that. So great question. I appreciate you providing that. Okay, so talked about all that, and talked about that. Island Transit, by the way, picked this up at the Victory Terrace Community Center here. They are still providing commuter service to the base and home. So they've got all the information on the back, all the stops that they do. So, and I know there's quite a few of our folks using it. So certainly, if you're on that shift schedule and it works for you, please, I encourage you to use it. They're providing a great, appropriate, free service to folks. It's free. Just get to the stop, get on the bus. You skip the line at the gate. You come right in around the corner and come onto the base. You don't have to deal with parking, which is, anyway, it's parking. Okay. All right. I think I've answered that one, answered those questions. This last question, I'll just highlight again the great work at Public Works, and many ways throughout this whole pandemic of 2020. Okay, we didn't stop construction. We did things appropriately, and we managed to go ahead and put Building 3000 in service, which is the future mission operations center for the MQ-4 Triton. Okay, that's being utilized by VQ-1 and Patrol Wing 10 until Triton IOCs. But that was a big project, and we managed to wrap that up here last year. We are building the next-gen jammer facility for maintenance and storage of the next-generation jammer that's going to be put on the Growler platform to replace the ALQ-99 over time. So that construction is nearing an end. We are doing construction of Hangar 15 on the flight line right next to Hangar 12. So that's moving along on track. And so looking forward to get through that project in mid to late 2021. So, and then also that P8 support facility is drive down Charles Porter on your right on the flight line side is that expansion of the facility to support the P8's needs in storage and maintenance of some of their gear. So a lot of great work going on by Public Works and the team would be effort to work through those appropriately, keep those things on track, keep us mission ready while we keep taking care of our people and families and all that good stuff. So with that, vaccines are coming, okay? We don't have any changes in policy right now. You need to continue doing the mitigations you're doing, okay? You need to continue taking care of yourself, taking care of your family, need to continue self-screening, need to continue doing the 3 W's, wash your hands, wear your mask, and watch your distance, okay? Close contact are those people who stay within 6 feet for 15 minutes or greater over a 24-hour period. So approach every interaction with, am I a close contact? If this person tests positive for COVID, am I going to be contact traced as a close contact? And is there something I can do to not be a close contact? Okay. And so sometimes our jobs create the environment where we need to. But for example, if somebody needs me to look at something like on their screen or something like that, I wear the mask, we do the precautions, I look at what they're talking about, and then we step away back to 6 feet or greater so that we can make sure that we don't hit that close contact criteria. Okay, if we do that, we're going to continue staying safe. Okay, but just because you get COVID doesn't mean you're a bad person. Just means that we want to make sure that we mitigate transmissivity on base. So with those things, we'll continue working through this as Team Whidbey, working together to work through 2021 and the challenges that come forward. And so if we had a question we didn't answer, please make sure you get that to the NASWI Public Affairs. Follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and get the information to us. Okay, anything else? Great. Thanks for the support team here. Thanks for everything you're doing out there and everything that you're working through in your own personal situation. So all the best to you. Thanks.